And we've got all the right in the world on our side. And there ain't no reason to be afraid. And there ain't no reason to not take the challenge dead on. Because I'm going to tell you who we come from, folks. We don't come from some weak, jellyback, spineless people. That's not who we come from. None of us. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what nation your folks hail from, how much money you got. We all share the same name. We are Americans. And at Bunker Hill, there was Americans. And at Fredericksburg and Gettysburg, there was Americans. And at Iwo Jima, raising that flag on Suribachi, it was Americans. And at Pork Chop Hill, there was Americans. Quezon, there was Americans. And on 9/11, there was Americans who ran towards those burning buildings. That is who you share your heritage with. You do not share your heritage with a weak and ineffective people who cower at the sight of trouble. You share your heritage with a strong and brave people who are determined to hold on to their freedom and for the freedom of future generations. Guys, it's time for us to stand up and be that generation. It's time for us to stand strong and proud and remember who we are. That we are Americans. And as long as we stand as the vanguard of freedom in this nation, freedom will survive you. Not only survive, it will thrive. So guys, it's time to put on our packs. It's time to fix those bayonets. It's time to get ready. We got a fight on our hands. And our fight is not for us, for all those generations that's going to come behind us. Let's save America, folks.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey guys, welcome to the program. This is going to be an amazing history bit. We're going to talk about one feared warrior, one battle story, the story retold from six different point of views. Understanding this bit of history might help you understand the crap, culture, race, and American politics. By the way, immediately following this program, I will be jumping over to my locals. If you're on Rumble, click the red button to join. We're going to be talking about a story that's breaking that's going to rack your world regarding True the Vote and 2,000 Mules. And now you see everybody paying attention to the paper in Georgia. Of course, Republicans made sure the paper was destroyed. You're going to find that out as well. I've been telling you that for a long time. And I'm going to open it to you to ask questions of me about what's going on, etc. And you see this battle. There are those that saying it's Venezuela and Caracas, and then people really paying attention to the paper and the battle involved. That'll be immediately following the program over at Locals. But this program right now is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Just go to jovanlovesgold.com and request your free gold and silver kit today, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. You need to understand it's coming. I'm bringing on an economist to help you understand this. We'll be doing that in the very near future. Gold's what? Over $4,500. I started telling you this when it was between 14 and 15. I'm not telling you this to invest in gold. I'm telling you this to cover your ass. And if you haven't even just requested, come on, silver's almost $70. If you haven't even requested the information and you've got a 401k or an IRA, just a question, what in the hell are you doing? You trust giving your money to the government for a 401k, IRA, retirement savings account. You need it. You try to get some out. They don't want to give it to you, or they're going to ding you 50%, and you can't even do something that costs you nothing just to get the information and understand. I'll never get that, but that's kind of the way the people are, and people understand it. Here's one you can understand. CB Distillery, yeah. Pay attention to the screen. New sale, year-end sale, 50% off, folks. 50% off now. This is the time you scramble. Yes, scramble, get going. If there's ever a sale that you needed right now, it's CB Distillery's end of year sale. Save up to 50% on everything. Your promo code is RUMBLE. The holiday chaos probably kicking your butts. Family parties, all this other stuff, stress, sleeplessness. Here you go. It's time for CBD from CB Distillery. Natural solutions for just about everything. Better sleep, less stress, more calm, improved mood and focus, pain relief after workouts, even CBD, right? CBD for your pets. Here's the code. You can zap it. My go-to, let me see if I can do both right here. My go-to right there. Now can I get it focused? Is the pain roll-on stick. That's the bomb. Ask people in chat. See, CB Distillery is different. Their hemp is grown right here in the U.S., third-party tested, free from artificial dyes and fillers, just clean, premium CBD solutions. That's why I trust them so seriously. Don't miss out. Treat yourself and save up to 50% on everything. Head over to cbdistillery.com. Use promo code RUMBLE, not Jovan. cbdistillery.com, promo code RUMBLE. You have specific product availability on their site, and it depends upon your individual state regulations. Okay? So, oh, by the way, don't forget, we still got this. All of that food that's going to be left over, can become your food supply, your safety food supply for years and years and years if you know how to do it with a freeze dryer. There it is. We still got this $1,000 off. We brought it back. Yes, it's a big purchase, but people are doing fantastic things with it, pitching into each other. You can either scan the code, take your pick, or you can just go to the website on your screen. Okay. During this time, I think it's good to reflect on certain things. And that's why I've chosen a piece of amazing history that a lot of people haven't heard. And if you heard it, as I tell the story, don't blurt it out and chat and all other stuff. Let people learn organically, because it's an important story. And I think it's very important during the time that we're going through right now. So we're going to cover some amazing history, one feared warrior, one battle story from 6 points of view. We'll get started right after this.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media? In the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd, cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, guys. Amazing history, one feared warrior, one battle story from 6 points of view being told by this ADD multitasker, whatever. When you see a reply from me in chat, it's me. I don't have people do it for me. I'm too I wouldn't hand any chat over to an assistant to do it, period. So you'll see my hands move around at time. I'm looking at the chats. I'm replying to chats. I can see all the different people, right? Like Dance and Zibravos and Mike and stuff over on, Instagram. I can look over here. I can see all the people on YouTube, say, welcome to you. Look over here, get her or whatever. I'm a multitasking fool. Some will say I'm just a fool for the sake of being a fool, but yes, I'm just a fool. Okay, now look, I think somebody says you'll do it for free. Aldia in Hawaii says you'll do it for free. I heard that about you, but I understand that's why you hang out at the truck stop and gas stations. That was not what I was talking about. Go to my happy place. Anyway, we're going to talk about a warrior's story. Because I think what we need in our time is warriors, don't you? I think what we're severely lacking in our time is warriors. I'm concerned more every day of all the BS psychological warfare going on, all the hype and crap going on, all the Venezuela and this and that and CIA operatives and just all this total crap. When it finally comes down to it, you see the real issue of where it sticks and where you get your legal legs is to paper, just like all the ballots in Georgia. But it's all a con. And the reason I say it's all a con is because people try to score political points versus just doing what's right for America. So I want to go back to a time, well, I guess where men are men. Right? Where real women were real women, where people knew that if you want to be free and you want to have freedoms, that you have to fight for it. Now, I'm not suggesting get out in the streets and fight. That's not it, although we're going to go back to those times. I'm just saying a little stick-to-itiveness, a little or a lot testicular fortitude. I think we lack it in today's society. So in the telling of this story, I kind of want you to understand it from different views. It's a historical account. I just want you to understand it from different views, if I can. Because it might give you a flavor. It might give you a way to understand certain things. But if we went back in time, it's kind of a story, a true telling, by the way. It did funny testicular fortitude. Now we've got young men saving us again named Big Balls. But you know what I'm talking about. People that care about their country. I'm so fed up with politicians. It's bullshit. It's just BS. In fact, this is one of the things we're going to talk about when I jump over to locals next, because when it comes down to the courtroom, the people, as I understand it, said they have the evidence, even back away from their own evidence. It's just freaking disgusting. If you have evidence, you have evidence. Okay, anyway. So in this case, when the stories were originally told, before we had this thing of social media and everything, the story would be kind of depending upon where you sat around the fire in the evening and who was telling the story. Now, if we were to go back to the day, right? If we were to go back to the day, some people say it happened when the air tasted like iron and the wet leaves, right, were on the ground and the river was flowing low but steady. Some say that in the woods where this battle took place, that normally you'd hear the birds and everything chirping, but for some reason they were quiet themselves. Some say a man rode on a horse and they claimed that he borrowed the thunder from the skies, right? Or he moved through the fog like a hawk cuts through the air. Of course, just like any story, it can grow over time, right? The way stories do, it happens because it's told over generations and stuff like that can happen. But in our telling, I'm going to go back to as many original sources as possible. But ironically, the reason I've decided to do this is because it's a question that still matters now. Here's the question. What do you do when you meet a person who behaves like he cannot be stopped? What do you do when you meet a person who behaves like they cannot be stopped? We're not talking in the crazy boasting or podcast boasting or that crap or fools that call people's names and just swagger and stuff, but in a way that this person keeps going after any sensible person would have just turned back and given up. You got it? Kind of a lot like President Trump. In a way that keeps going even in the thickest of danger, as if he believes the world has made a place for him in that part of history. See, that's the person that becomes a problem. The person that's very focused, stays on it, dedicated as if driven by God, won't veer away, won't hop on the newest topic. They become a problem. Not only because their truth, or them, we should say, can become hard to kill, but because the person changes the shape of the minds around him. I've always told you it's about truth. When you understand the truth and when you're dedicated and when you understand courage is courageous, you'll get it. Somebody who makes one side of the room hesitate, makes one side of the room follow, and then he makes that weird third. He makes them afraid, very afraid. And it's interesting because the fear, ironically, travels faster than a bullet. You ever thought about that? You're watching the system respond to it in elections. Fear, 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 fear. It travels faster than a bullet. You can almost plot in these social media days, when somebody starts telling the truth, they reach into their closet of old BS, they pull out a fake story, and they start pounding it again. You've experienced it. You see it. So first, I want to kind of tell you a story of this story, because there's multiple views here, and I think it's good to view the stories all the way around, right? Already got a thumbs down on that one. Ooh, they must know what I'm going to talk about being fearless and BS stories. Thank you for that thumbs down. I am so glad you hate me enough. You're afraid of me enough that you are here, dedicated every damn day to the words that come out of my mouth. Anyway, So you can imagine a soldier. One of the stories that comes down to this story, and I'll just tell it as if I'm the soldier, right? Say hi. Anyway, I write this letter in the winter of my bones, with the smell of a river mist rising in my mind. Some men have forgot the time, forgot the year, because they have too much rum and too little schooling. But I know the year by the faces we buried and the way that the frontier learned new prayers that summer. We marched in bright order through green wilderness as if the woods were a church. Aisles made for us, drums trying to, right, make sense of a place that had no love of straight lines. The first shots didn't sound like a battle at all. It was kind of like boards cracking in a distant barn. And then the forest came alive. Every tree seemed to have eyes. The smoke hung low. Men's dropped with mouths open as if surprised the world could end so quickly. It was all hell breaking loose. The officers shouted, the horses screamed, and the road we cut into the earth as we traveled turned into a narrow trough of panic. In that chaos, I saw him. He was young, tall in the saddle, moving as if the bullets were just mere weather, and he'd been raised under harsher skies, fearless. I watched him ride where no sane man would ride, and doing it back and forth and back and forth. Through the worst of it, carrying orders that never reached anyone, but the courage somehow did. Twice I saw his horse go down. Once hard, and once it was as if it folded in half. But he got up again. No need to guess, folks. Play along. But he got up again with a dark face, dark with powder and sweat, not pleading, not cursing, just working as if he could stitch the whole army that was falling apart with his own hands. The shots that rang out snapped so close to us that I ended up flinching for him. He didn't flinch, but I flinched. Later, as time passed over and death had passed, here was this warrior, shot at continually, no blood, no limping, no wounds. He just got up, dusted the dust off of him, and then went on as nothing happened. After we limped away and all was done, stories traveled faster than any courier. Word came from the tribes, some again from their warriors, that this man, this soldier, this warrior, just could not be killed. I too saw it with my own eyes, right out in the open air. Everybody else around him was struck down by a cruel finger, killing them all. But nothing seemed to make him fall. I think what we saw that day in the forest is how legends are born. Sometimes they begin as a mere nothing, but one impossible man, still upright, while all of the rest are falling. In my lifetime, other men had written different versions. A lot of people had their own versions. But the point was, he was a man who did not behave like he expected to die. Not at all. It's not even that his skin was hard or his bulletproof. It was like determination. And he couldn't be taken down. We all had our own stories. We just kind of passed them around, like folks do, sitting around the campfire, not in ink. But the point was that his skin, his determination, my words, his testicular fortitude was hardened, that he just didn't act like a man who expected to die. He was a man that people could see this. They could see this. They could see it in him, that something is inside them, something happens inside them, that even their enemies hesitate. And when the enemies hesitate, it's like a crack in the blade. Now it's told by children all over. Widows hear it. A warrior that could walk through the mist unharmed. Somebody who was so determined and had so much truth and faith inside their own self that they could not be stopped. And it wasn't because of magic. Wasn't because of magic. It was because belief rearranges the world around him. People follow him. He's just a man that bleeds like everybody else. But I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I'll tell you another story here. Here's another story that kind of comes from how do I put this? The father, would that be what it is? The father would tell the story, meaning at a church, etc., or people. It's all over. It's this story, which I'm telling you from different perspectives. This story and it's factual, by the way. I want you to understand what I'm sharing with you is a true historical story. And you've got to understand what I'm doing is I am sharing with you the story of one feared warrior. And it's about one battle, right? One battle. That you can confirm. You can confirm the facts of this point. But in our society today, it's like, how do you deal with the man that's on a mission that believes in himself and won't waver? We asked that on two sides. We asked it about President Trump, man on a mission. When a system is so wishy-washy, right? In a time where so few stand for anything. So imagine the preacher delivering his version at a funeral when the warrior dies. And one of the stories goes like this: beloved friends, we stand here today not merely at the grave of a man, but at the quiet edge of an age. Our nation feels smaller now that he's gone, as if a great oak has fallen. and left a sudden opening in the canopy where we once found shade. We do not gather as those without hope. We gather to commend a soul to Almighty God and to remember, without vain praise, without bitter fear, that the Lord can accomplish great things through a willing servant. For it's written that the race is not swift, nor the battle too strong. It's a story of one that ruled over our hearts, that rules over histories. It's, if ever a life proved to us that providence is not a poet's fancy, but an absolute stern reality of living a life that is committed. Many among you have heard the old frontier account and how the savage thunders of war, that he rode through a storm of attacks, all chaos, and everybody around him was being struck down to his left, to his right, but somehow it didn't take him. A man who was determined to live his life and to accept the role that God assigned to him in life. Even these stories are spoke among many cities, many states. God alone knows, but we do know this. There are moments in the human affairs that the Lord appoints one person to carry a burden that is too heavy for ordinary shoulders to carry, that the Lord grants strength to that warrior to bear what others cannot bear. What is a preserved life if not a summons? What is a spared man if not a man spared for something great? And this warrior did not treat that license by God as a sense of pride, but as a charge, as a duty, an obligation, to duty, to restraint, and to do it for the good of others. So look then, not only the battles he survived and at the temptations he overcame, for courage on the field is common compared to humility, right? And victory. He could have seized power, called it necessary. He could have done many things to put himself above others because he was a warrior. Yet he laid down the sword. He laid down his sword. And it's the act for actually laying down his sword, which is what made him famous. He could have ruled by force. He could have fought by force, but he laid down the sword and instead preached peace and prosperity. That, friends, is the mark of a man who fears God more than he craves applause. We bury him with honor, but we do not worship him. We thank heaven for him, but we do not mistake the instrument for the hand that held it. And now, as the earth closes around this faithful servant, let the living hear the sermon of his life, which, by the way, is why I'm telling the story. And if we were to look to it as a nation is not preserved by might alone, but by righteousness. Not by leaders who grasp, but by leaders who can actually release. Not by those who promise greatness at any cost, but by those willing to pay the cost of goodness. May God comfort the mourning people, And may he grant providence to the warrior we now lay to rest. May we all walk humbly, seek justice, love mercy, and remember that the Lord of hosts still judges nations. So the eulogy, right, is impressive when the stories are told of this man. When we go way back into time, because we're obviously talking about the frontier, and as I tell these stories, and if you just listen to the stories, you'll get the story without being prejudiced about who it is. And so in me telling this, as I ask everyone, hang tight, there's a reason. I don't want it prejudiced by the warrior. I don't want it prejudiced by what you think you may know. And that's why I'm not throwing out guesses or whatever. And that's why I'm telling the amazing history of one feared warrior, one battle story from 6 points of view, because you normally don't get the 6 different points of view. And so often people hear one word or one person, oh my God, I don't like that person. And the moral of the story is blown. One thing I'm not about is I'm not about shortcuts. I'm about trying to give you history to help you understand how important it is. Media, social media has taught us shortcuts. People just can't wait. No, need it now. And it's that need it now that kills us. Really what we need is focus, to be able to look back, to learn, to look forward, to stand strong in it, to not be impatient, but to stand in truth. And I think that's why I'm telling you this story, right? Because it's important to learn from this story, right? Because so many times, people jump and think they know the story, when in fact they missed the whole lesson of why even, this is a true story to history, why even God allowed it to happen. So it's not as much the man when I tell you this story. It's to slow down. God had a message. And I think if you can see God in this story, you can see the divine nature in the story, you'll get the true lesson. Because it's even bigger than one mere man. And it's something that's reaching out from history. And right now, it's probably more important than ever. If I was to tell it from those, aside from those who he battled and was doing battle with as a young fellow, 23, I think. 23. It's amazing to think about. 23-year-olds today can't even change a flat freaking tire. Don't know what to do in a crisis. Can see somebody shot from a bullet wound, being beat up, a woman being raped, and their first inclination is to pull out their phone and video it, then stop and do what's right. That's why we're not about first impulse here. We're about getting back to the basics, and that's why I'm reaching back in history to tell you this story. Think about it. Think about it. When you realize that we are all chosen to be here in this moment in time, when you realize that society has sped us up, who is it? Who's it? Guess. Who is it? Guess. Every guess takes people watching, if they're in chat, takes them a totally different direction. That's why distraction, in many ways, is a weapon of the enemy. That's why maybe sometimes my program is a lesson in focus, a lesson in pace. And you can always go back and speed me up 3 times later and watch it. but that's how and why it works. Even the smallest of moves, with the greatest of intents, can be weaponized against minds that don't have the ability to focus. And I think if you understand this as a nation, we've lost our focus, and we've got to get back to focus. So if we were to go to that battlefield, we'll tell it from the opposite side now. You hold it from a soldier, you heard it from a preacher giving a eulogy. Now let's hear it from those who were in the battle. One of the stories from a warrior says, I was not yet old when we walked as scouts, and sometimes for ourselves, and sometimes for whichever side fed us or was paying us or promised fewer broken words. These are the natives, by the way. This was not a clean kind of war like later man would do, in drawing in straight lines on paper, moving here and forth. It was a war of confusion and smoke. It was a winter of hunger, a summer of disease. It was where alliances, which is true today, shift back and forth, right? Like the wind. Promises that fell apart when the ink dried. A territory that was captured and named and renamed by people who had never slept under the very trees they claimed. We knew the newcomers' warlike habits, how they marched in blocks like a fence moving through the forest, how they liked bright colored coats. They had metal buttons on their jackets. How they believed the land would behave like a road, but it does not. How they brought all their supplies in their wagons on the frontier, and how they had all kinds of confidence, but it was confidence from not knowing what you don't know. That day, their warriors, a column, was moving to a drumbeat. The path was narrow. The trees stood very close. The river ran beside us like a blade laid flat. We watched them from the shadows. We watched them from all the angles of the limbs and the leaves what the branches would hide. We had to be careful to breathe carefully to not reveal ourselves. And we watched this young warrior. He was tall, restless, sitting on a horse like a man trying to become bigger than he actually is. His name, later, we would learn it, spoken as if it was set into a stone foundation, but on that day, he was only a young man, probably hungry for a reputation, but had the air that he would be certain somehow he'd be written into the story. The ambush broke like a storm. It's kind of hard to explain to someone who'd only know the loudness of a war instead of being in a war, and how suddenly the forest itself can become a weapon. Shots don't ring out from any neat front. They actually come from everywhere. Smoke hangs between the trunks, the tree trunks, the limbs, in the air like a curtain. Orders disappear because they cannot travel through the trees, so they can't follow. The men who always relied on formations, now scattered apart, found themselves alone. Their legs were trembling. It made them all tremble. It made the strongest tremble. Of course, they fired back. They were firing wildly. They were firing at shadows, and ironically, most of the time they were firing at themselves. Their weapons barked. The sounds thundered through the forest. Horses screamed. Men screamed. The river kept talking the whole time as if it had seen worse. We moved our bodies as we've always known how to move. Low, patient, and precise. We didn't waste our shots. To be able to have those shots, it was as precious as life. And so we learned to take great care to decide when to shoot. And so we moved our bodies as we've always known to move. And then we saw him. He was there. He wasn't prideful. He was just focused. Officers that were there clung to their bright coats like it would protect them from death, but not this one, not this young one, not this rider. He kept crossing the open ground as if the forest opened up to him, crossing back and forth as if he knew the path. He leaned down to men that had fallen. He spoke to their faces. He lifted them. He pointed towards others. He dragged them. He rode into places only where the absolute bravest would pause or run away. He did not. He wasn't careful. That was the strange part. He wasn't careful. He was not careful in a way that a man is careful when he knows he can die. He behaved like a man that believed death had no business with him. At first, it made us laugh. Like when you see a child who doesn't understand the fire, grabs a hold of the fire, or a child that stands in front of the fire. Some said he just wants to be seen. The elders said, let him be seen. And then we aimed. Our weapons are simple. You breathe, you settle, you squeeze, you watch. We all watched. We all fired. Everyone saw him jolt. Everyone saw his body twitch. They even saw the horse flinch and fall. But he didn't fall. So we fired again and again. Our side, as I watched as a young man, over and over. His horse dropped. One horse, grab another, get back on, found another mount, rode back into the smoke. It was kind of like he was being pulled forth by a hand unseen. And the crush of it, I remember as if time slowed down. He turned his head and he looked through us. But how could he see us through the smoke? There was nothing but smoke in between us. It was as if he could see us. We could see his attention focused. His face was set dead calm, the kind that comes from someone who has decided that there is only one direction left to travel, It was really an odd thing to see on the battlefield a man whose mind had gone quiet. And a quiet mind is not moved by fear. There were more shots, more smoke, more bodies everywhere, but he kept on moving. Someone near me yelled out, spat into the leaves angry, "This is a waste." We are wasting our bullets and powder on a man who will not drop. That's when the elder spoke up. A man with scars all over his body like an old river lowered his gun without firing. He did not shout. He didn't need to. His voice cut clean through all of our angers. He said, "Enough. Enough. The Great Spirit is shielding this man. You do not need to waste any shots on him." As the way stories like this do, it struck us like a drum. In reality, there was something more practical. A command to stop losing our advantage on a stubborn target. But the meaning stuck. And now everyone that's lived a long life understands there are moments when a person seems wrapped in fate. Not because fate is kind, but because fate is busy, because someone is larger and something is larger, moving through them, using them, and you cannot always see that shape until much later. So we let them go. Not because we were gentle, but because we admired him. Not because we feared him in a childless way. We did not. We let him go because we recognized he was dangerous. And that danger does not sit in the body, but in the story that follows that body. And although we didn't say it out loud, we were unsettled. It was as if he was immortal. Little did we know that he was an idea that was becoming, and an idea that would ultimately do more damage than bullets. If you were to go in later year, and remember what I'm doing is I'm telling you this story from 6 different views. It'd be a lot easier to not try to guess and distract people. It would be a lot easier to learn the lesson, because I do believe this is really a lesson from God. And it's a lesson we need today. It's a lesson to learn. It's really about we the people. And it's about we're all choosing to do this. But if we were to learn some of the lessons from it, in a time when it's about glowing screens and fast opinions, it's take time to study what history has told us was an invincible man, instead of being stagnant like mosquitoes in stagnant water. You don't need guns to create legends. We've been given cameras and headlines, and we'll build our own shrines, right? We hold up people, we give them our loyalty. We accept what they're saying is truth. Sometimes we all have enemies that spread stories like smoke. It happens to me. Those stories are designed to make you question your own judgment or have fear. They're designed to make you hate. They're designed to make you stop thinking. All the same stuff goes on, folks. But in our time, you got to understand, a person doesn't actually have to survive bullets or assassination attempts to be shielded. They only need to survive the consequences. They only need to keep standing after the scandal and the bullshits and the smoke and the attacks. They'll continue to stand after failure. They'll continue to stand after people tell lies about them. They'll continue to stand after the cruelty. And soon people say, you know, hey, nothing touches him. Must be destiny. He cannot fall. And so what you learn is you begin to waste your shots. Because the system, Lord knows, will take shots. Might not be guns, but it's outrage. Outrage fired every day until you right now, you're experiencing it right now until you're freaking exhausted. It's arguments launched at strangers or between strangers. It kind of seems like nobody's listening. Maybe sometime you're lucky if your shots get attention. See, attention's a weapon too. And sometimes people spend it like they have a endless supply, right? But you got to understand, attention is not endless. Attention is not endless. People get worn out. Outrage is not endless. People just get fed up. Hope is not endless because people can lose hope. In this story of why I'm telling you this is to stop wasting your bullets. Because in a time when we face many dangerous things like a movement, an idea, somebody who's just about gathering up power for themselves, don't fire just because you're angry. It's interesting that wildfires, just torching the place, you know, just to burn it up, want to torch it, it'll kind of make you feel like you're doing something. But it can also be exactly what the danger, what the enemy wants. It is also about deciding for yourself to be untouchable, unbuildable, unbendable. And it all comes from focus and being precise. Not being all over the place. Focus and being precise. It's like, what is actually true? What is rumor? Was this story designed to steer my fear? We've talked a lot about this, right? And so you have to do two things. You have to choose your targets wisely. You have to choose your battle wisely. And you certainly have to choose your words wisely. What we should learn from these stories and retelling, which I've got more to share, is because the very quickest way to get killed, to get conquered, is to spend all your strength on the part that even cannons can't hit. Right? Even cannons cannot hit. Now, with this, although I have other stories, I want to share something with you about this warrior, and I want you to understand what I'm doing about this warrior as I'm giving you history, but I want you to understand the importance of this history because this was a feared warrior. And I'm actually giving you the stories of just one battle from 6 points of view. because it's in these varying points of view that you understand the story. But first, people don't know that the story I'm telling you about, although it's true, 100%, was actually a prophecy first. Right? I, for one, when I think about the United States of America and how we managed to even build our country, there are many things prophetic in it that people don't understand. All the prophecy that is there that ordained that the United States of America would occur, but we'd come under great battles for it. But I'm going to tell you this one because it's obviously back. When I said the natives and I said the frontier, you obviously understand it's a period back in time with battles against Native Americans. And here's the one prophecy that was told. The elder said, I am old and soon will be gathered to the great council, to the council fire of my fathers in the land of shades. But before I go, there is something that bids me to speak the voice of a prophecy. Listen. Just sent chills down my spine. Listen. The Great Spirit protects that man and guides his destinies. He will become the chief of nations, and a people yet unborn will hail him as a mighty empire. I am come to pay homage to the man who is a particular favorite of heaven and who could never die in battle. Now, that's the prophecy that occurred well before the event that I've told you about. The person I'm talking about is George Washington. And now I'm going to give you the story of that war and what happened. And I want you to understand the many, many, many parts of us that are divine. So what happened in this story? It happened in the Appalachian Mountains. It was the French and Indian War. The British, which had about 1,400 troops, marched all over the Appalachian Mountains. They had just seized a fort near the present-day Pittsburgh. And this fellow, Colonel George Washington, then 23 years old, rode at the back of General Edward Braddock's army, mostly because American soldiers were considered inferior to the British. The problem was that the European style of warfare was to march into a clearing facing an opponent who did exactly the same. Stop, load, and fire, never breaking rank. Stop, load, and fire, never breaking rank. Doing the same way, and that's the moral of the story, doing the same damn thing you've always done, trying to fix the same old problem so you do it the same way. It's insane. But like government, like wars, doing the same thing over and over can get you killed. Sometimes you have to think out of the box. And George Washington thought out of the box. You see, in their stop, load, and fire, and never breaking rank, the British were easy targets. They were perfect targets. Why? They were in their bright red uniforms. What they did is they considered hiding behind trees or rocks cowardly. How many times have I told you in this battle that all of us have fought, or my team and I have fought, trying to fix elections? One of the biggest mistakes we can make is thinking the enemy thinks the same way as we do. You find something wrong in elections, and it's obviously blatant criminal. You go, look here. And you think they have the same ethics as you, and they don't. They look away. George Washington was one of those people. And the British, in their arrogance, thought, right, hiding behind rocks and trees was cowardly. See, both Indians and Americans, they considered the British type of warfare style suicidal. Washington warned the generals of this, but they had to obey orders. And so on July 9th, 1755, this battle occurred when Braddock passed through a ravine with an army half its normal size was waiting for him. An army half its size was waiting for him. But see, they were hiding behind boulders and trees, and they annihilated him. Officers were mounted targets. Washington, though, rode back and forth on the line through the hail storm of musket balls, delivering Braddock's orders as he was the only officer still on horseback. The rest had been obliterated. He could not actually take command until the wounded Braddock was carried from the field. Unfortunately, the 2-hour ambush left 976 casualties before Washington could save what was left. The historical records say a British soldier said, "I expected every moment to see him fall. Nothing but the superintending care of God could have saved him." So here's Washington, surrounded by slaughter. The British regulars, they broke and run like sheep pursuing dogs. Those are the words of George Washington. His Virginia militia continued to die attempting to aid the fleeing British. The pursuing Indians were slowed only by their thirst for the battlefield scalps and booty. Forget the 1,000 men that died out of the 100 volunteers that George Washington had with them. There was barely 30 left. Washington was angry. He was upset at the dastardly behavior of the British, what they called regulars, that they were not willing to face certain death to get the job done. See, why this became a legend. And it's not a legend in the sense it didn't happen. It absolutely happened. George Washington was riddled with bullet holes. Remember, multiple horses went down. George Washington was riddled from all angles with bullet holes. When he took off his coat, everybody can see it. Bullet holes, musket ball holes from all angles. But not one pierced his body. Not a single one. We're talking kill shots through the jacket that somehow didn't pierce his body. Nobody could explain it. That's why so many different people, and the story has come down. They don't teach you this in schools. Why? Because the system who hates God and hates this nation, designed to tear down this nation, are not going to tell you a story of George Washington and the founding of this nation, and they surely had God on his side. You see how it conflicts? You see how it conflicts with what they want you to know? That's why they don't even teach the ending in prophecy that well before this event, by years, said this man was coming. Now you understand why our school systems will not teach this, why they don't teach it. And I've always said it is so critically important to understand history. History tells us what our future is going to be. History also tells us what works. History also shows us what has failed. If we were to go back just to 1976, started in 1975 and went through 1976. It was about the time that the Equal Rights Association was up for women's rights or whatever, and the women were fighting at that time that you're minimizing moms and homes. You're dividing moms from their children. You're kind of taking over our children, and we need moms. And one of the things that was being said by the people that were called crazy was, if we do this, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have confused children. Quote, you're going to end up having genderless bathrooms. But yet the media threw it out as ravings of lunatics. And here's where we sat. Here's a little bit more about what the natives learned from this. And they said that the forest taught us strategy. The forest taught us humility. We learned that you can do everything right. We learned that you can do everything right, but still watch a man ride through smoke untouched, and you will not know why. You will take perfect aim. This is sending chill down my spine. I'm sorry. You will take perfect aim, and you will still miss. You will have the advantage, and you will still lose. You can believe you understand the world, and then the world surprises you. This is not a weakness. This is just reality. See, because reality is a better teacher than pride. So here is the last part of the story that most people often forget because it's quieter than gunfire. And this is how they finish the story, which I just broke in two for you. After the battle, the dead laid like fallen branches, and the survivors moved like ghosts. The British grieved and blamed and yelled and hollered. The French and their allies counted victories, but the river kept moving, the trees kept standing, and the land did what it always does. It absorbed the moment and waited for the next. That young officer, who you now know as George Washington, rode away alive. Later, they came to build a nation on his name. Later, we would be asked again and again to make room for that nation's hunger. Later, the story of his shielding would be used as proof that his cause was blessed, as if surviving danger is the same thing as being right. But surviving really only proves one thing: you survived. Myths can touch people. Myths can inspire. People can be both good and bad. But what's important is clear seeing. Clear seeing. What he possessed was seeing clearly what had to happen. Being unwavered in what had to happen. And focusing on that clearness. Washington wasn't a spirit, and he was not a monster. He was a man inside a current of history that was far bigger than his own chest. He grew to be a leader. He would preside over a world that kept taking land. He would become a man whose portraits hung in many schools, put on money. You take him to look calm and finished, as if he was already formed then, as if he never sweated or never feared. But a symbol like this can be a knife. It can cut both ways. To take a mere man and turn them into a saint, you end up not holding the system accountable. To take a mere man, one individual, and hold them up as a saint, you miss not holding the system accountable and what the system will do. That's what we're in right now. Even though the elders said this great spirit is shielding a man, they were not worshiping him, but what they were doing is they were recognizing that a story around a person can make them as dangerous or more dangerous than their body. So you get right this fine line between worshiping and demonize. They work closely. The bottom line of all of this is every human is capable of courage, just like when every human is capable of harm. Every human is capable of growth or destruction, capable of lies, capable of changing. That's the difference. See, devils don't change, God don't change, but it's the people in between. If you look back at George Washington, what he was actually doing was he chose strategy. He knew the natives would be ready to fight the British based on what they observed from the British, where everybody had to play by the rules. If you're going to do an audit, you got to do a risk limiting audit. You got to take what we said as right in the election. Don't you veer outside the box. George Washington knew to keep on doing the same thing was crazy, and he used that against the enemy. And by going exactly the opposite, what the enemy expected, or the enemy knew the standard was, is what made Washington prevail the way he did. And to this legend, to this day, still being told. And see, the difference is you must choose strategy over reaction. And that's where we are today. The system is considering us, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do what we're told. We're going to color within the lines. This is the way it is. We're never going to hold anybody accountable. The government will take care of us. We got to wait it all out. And it gives us where we're locked in this reaction of following the system, but it's also the other side of the reaction. Let's go get people and storm in and get Tina Peters out. Think about that. If we made that ill-advised decision, they'd take away our guns. But see, it's an advice like that you understand that's the enemy's strategy. You should be able to see it as clear as day. When somebody says and tries to promote, we got to send in the armies, we got to bust her out, we got to do this. See, that's the strategy of evil. Because the consequences of people reacting like that is we will, in fact, lose our nation. We will lose our Second Amendment. We will lose our guns. And see, their strategy relies on how we, the people, react. And they think they know the way we react. It's why they couldn't account for Donald J. Trump winning, because they already had their strategy in place and they decided how the nation would react and do just enough to show Hillary win. But you know what happened? You reacted differently. You did something totally different. And that very thing, by doing something different, which exposed the media as being rotten to their core, which exposed all of these politicians and lawmakers as being rapists, that exposed everything we've now learned, came because President Trump was deploying a strategy when he got in. Yes, the people helped. They did something different. See, now the roles are reversed, folks. Now is the time when we, the people, must respond, be calm, and use strategy. Stop reacting. Stop letting podcasters or influencers get you all riled up. It's the Jews. It's the machines. Oh, let's go bust her out. We got to do this. No, now's the time for us to answer the call, because I believe God's chosen every one of us to be here, to work by strategy. George Washington used strategy against the evil machine. We know what the strategy fears most. People knowing the real story, people being focused, don't be emotional, and basically unleash a weapon that strategically will take them down. And how do you get a whole system down? Racketeering, federal racketeering. But we're still locked in this battle. Everybody reacting, oh, thank God you found out who it was in Venezuela. I'm so happy for the CIA to find the person in Caracas who was pushing the button. This is where we are. The question is, are we going to accept, just like George Washington did, that we're divinely appointed to be here during this time? Are we going to accept it? Are we going to accept that we got to be patient, we got to be focused, and we have to execute a strategy? The system will tell you what they're afraid of. The system promotes what they're not afraid of and what they want to happen. The system will tell you what they're afraid of. And it's through all of this fog in the forest and everything else. If you go back to 2016, you have the system saying, it's the machines, got to get rid of the machines, which all Democrats were willing to do. Tables turn, 2020, it's the machine, got to get rid of the machines. Both sides are in agreement. And you can't see through it. Because, see, mucking with a machine and maybe deleting a database of 1 million voters is a misdemeanor with a $1,000 fine. And if they really mad at you, it'll be a $1,000 fine and 1 year in jail. However, if you were to look at one county in Maricopa and you see, for paraphrasing, 200,000 ballots actually altered in system, and they put the ballots in system, that's 200,000 individual felonies at the state level and at the federal level. And oh, by the way, when you stick the ballots in the system, it takes a lot of people to do it. You know what that is? That's federal racketeering. And so many people forget everything's been right in front of our faces this entire time. Did you not realize that? Did you not realize that? You get shown the facts, you get shown the facts, you get shown the facts, you get shown the facts. and you still get rah-rahed out of it. Let me give you an example. One of the things that was disclosed in the hearings, which proves RICO, but disclosed during the hearings in Arizona, that some 17,000 people weren't on the voter rolls, were not on the preceding voter rolls that the election was conducted by. Okay? So the election was over in November of 2020. They were not on the voter rolls. After November of 2020, they were put on the voter rolls. But yet, when you look at what happened in 2020, somehow they voted in the 2020 election when they weren't even put in it yet. Now you understand why this chart's so important? Do you now understand why you got to look at that over there when you see 118,019 pieces of paper run into the system more than a month after the election? They needed those people. They did it. Now you've got the people on the list and you've got the paper. And when you put people on a voter roll and you delay the count and you certify it, but then you make the paper match and you put the paper in, those are felonies that prove federal racketeering. But in this mist, in this fog, it's designed to create confusion when the whole time you've had the evidence before your eyes. And that's the difference strategy, staying focused, staying at it, and being truthful makes. But they keep everybody in chaos and reactive, and that's why we lose. I'm headed over to locals next. Please share this program.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "It's the machines," or "The machines changed the votes," or "The voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archive secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.